person in the waiting room is a commission member.
Shall we begin?
Hello?
Okay. I now call to order the Economic Development, Tourism and Events Commission meeting at 5:03 p.m. Will the clerk please take roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Commission member Lean? Commission member Warner?
Present.
Commission member Case? Commission member Congleton? Commission member Peck?
Here.
Commission member Moorhead?
I'm here.
Ex officio Arlene Allen?
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Oh, thank you. Did anyone submit a public comment in advance?
No, ma'am.
If anyone is actually or virtually in attendance and would like to speak, please raise your hand now. *9 is used to raise your hand if you are connected by phone. We will now move into the consent agenda consisting of approving the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? Well then, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second, this is Bruce.
We have a move and we have a second. Thank you so much. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is passed. And we will move on to our presentations and reports. It looks like we have a guest presentation.
Yeah. So the first project here that we'll be presenting is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. As you all may recall, we ended up getting a grant from the Economic Development Administration to do one of these. Making our economic development element of the comp plan conform to the EDA principles that opens us up for a lot of federal EDA grant opportunities. Thank you all for those that helped us grade the proposals of the two. Mr. Saldana's economic growth strategies, that was the top one. Council authorized us to enter in a contract. And with that, we will be kicking off this said study, which is key because it's going to set us up for economic development for the next period of our comprehensive plan, and in conformance with the EDA principles, about a 6-year time frame once they accept it. So with that, I want to turn it over to Mr. Saldana.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you want to pull back up that, yeah, that'd be great. And then scroll up to the first, or actually we can skip the first page and just go to the second page. So again, I'm Paul Saldana, the managing principal with Economic Growth Strategies. The other Paul Saldana you see online here is my associate Strad Herrera, who works with me at EGS. And we're the primary entity involved with this. So our role is and our background is in economic development, strategic planning. We've done a number of nationally recognized strategies and initiatives throughout the U.S. And we combine our practical ground experience with academic level analysis. Our partner in this engagement is the Nettleson Dale Group. They're based in Southern California. They do a lot of data analytics on real estate, target industry, and retail market analysis, and that'll be their heavy contribution to this strategy. And then we have the International Sustainable Resilience Center. They're based out of New Orleans. They're a international nonprofit organization that really focuses in on economic resilience, and that's one of the areas of focus that's required under EDA. We can scroll to the next slide. Um, so the SEDS, as our city manager indicated, is a comprehensive economic development strategy. This will be the planning document that will be required for us to access federal funding through various grant programs, and the role of the commission will be to serve as that said strategy committee, and we'll be going through and presenting a number of different elements as we go through this process. Next slide, please. So this kind of shows you the SEDS planning process. We'll be doing a number of stakeholder engagement activities through this process, including coordinating with the commission as our SEDS committee. We will be doing some stakeholder interviews. We'll get out there. Mr. Herrera and I will be out hopefully in the next month or so to do a site visit, and we'll be able to meet folks on the ground during that time as well. The next phase in this process will be the economic conditions report, where we'll be bringing this back to the commission and analyzing a variety of different conditions that are taking place related to the economy, infrastructure, workforce development, and resilience. Followed by that, or I should say during that time, we'll also be doing a competitive analysis. That's where the target industry, the real estate, and a SWOT analysis will be conducted. And this will all lead up into the development of a draft plan, which will meet all of the requirements of EDA, and it will include implementation strategies, internal consistency with the city's current planning processes. It'll also take a look at its connection from a regional perspective as well, and then have some performance metrics along with that as well. So if we scroll to the next slide. This is sort of what your final plan will look like. We will have a public review period that will be that's required under EDA funded projects, and so that'll be the time for folks to engage in looking at the strategic direction and the action plan and how that aligns with some of the other activities that are going on within the city. Once we get the recommendation from the commission to move that plan forward, it'll go before the city council for final adoption, and then we'll submit it to the EDA for their review and approval. And so we'll be with the city through this entire process. We don't leave until the EDA signs off on it and it's an approved plan that meets all of their requirements. And if we can go to the next, I think the next slide is well, these are our next steps. So we will be doing a site visit here in the next, we're hoping in the next month, next 4 to 5 weeks, that we will come out there and basically look at a variety of the different opportunities. We'll also use that time to meet with stakeholders, either collectively or individually during that process. We will have the initial draft of an economic conditions report. We hope to have that by your next commission meeting. That would be a timely opportunity for us to sort of review what we found from what the data tells us. And of course, the data doesn't necessarily always reflect what might be happening on the ground. And so that's why the site visit's important during that same period of time. And then again, we'll be providing some monthly updates to the commission as we go through this process. I'll be either myself or Mr. Herrera will be on during each of the meeting agendas just to provide an update of where we're at or highlights of what we've uncovered so far. So with that, the last slide, I think, is questions. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to address this. We're again just getting this process rolling, and so there'll be a lot of information going back and forth between the city and our team here, and as we generate information, we'll be sharing that out as well. So
Thank you,
any
Paul.
questions I can
Does
answer?
anybody have any questions? I know it's kind of early in the process, so I'm sure we'll have lots of questions as we continue with this. So thank you so much for the information.
Okay. Well,
And
thank
we
you.
look forward to working with you.
Yeah, same here. We glad to meet you all, at least virtually, and I look forward to we will have some opportunity to attend some commission meetings, so we look forward to that opportunity as well, and seeing you in person.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
Paul.
much.
Thank you.
It looks like we have another guest presentation from Martin Airfield Area Planning Study. Ben, you're on.
Thank you. Yeah, so I can either share my screen or you can go through slides, I guess, either way. Looks like you've got it up, so we'll go with that. So you haven't heard from me for a couple months. Had I think, lack of quorum and then technical difficulties last time. So Mike, thank you for giving the presentation on my behalf last time when I couldn't join. So just want to give a fairly brief update on some of the things you may not have heard with Mike's outlines in the last month since we've been working on this. So yes, Ben Hoppe with JUB Engineers. We've been working for the past several months on the Martin Airfield planning study, and hopefully about 8 to 10 or 8 weeks or so away from wrapping up our efforts and getting you something tangible here. So here to report on progress. Next slide, please. This is just a reminder of, you've seen a couple of these slides before. So the ones you've seen, I'm going to go through rather quickly. I think by this time, we all know where this project's at in that red bolded area for Martin Airfield on the west side of the city of College Place. Next slide. Again, an overview of our scope, what we're doing with this process. Obviously, we've gone through our kickoff meeting by now and kind of lined things. These next 3 items that you're seeing, the economic feasibility, site analysis, and infrastructure analysis, kind of work in tandem together. We collect a lot of data at the same time that we're doing our market analysis with our economist. I will provide some updates on the economic feasibility and infrastructure analysis that you hadn't heard in past presentations. Our economist is not here today. Unfortunately, had another engagement on the East Coast. So I will try my best, even though I'm not an economist, to put on my economist hat and give you a summary, at least, of what our economist has worked on. Next slide, please. So our economist has conducted what we call an industry health check. Identifies a few different industries that are important but declining, weaker declining, important in growth opportunities, and then emerging. And so this is just kind of an overall economic overview of gaps and needs for business in the area that we've looked at here. And so those ones in bold that you see are the ones that stick out: truck transportation, food manufacturing, some professional technical services, and so forth. A lot of industries overall that we look at, and some are important and growth industries, but they might not necessarily make sense to attract, like hospitals, for example. You see they're not bolded. This hospital kind of develops organically rather than attracting it directly. So the goal here is to identify industries that are needed and that you want to attract for this site. The next slide will give you some more detail on what we think we might be looking at here. So wholesalers, truck transportation, I'm going to come back to, is kind of an interesting market because you've got rail nearby. Manufacturing, talked a little bit about wine industry and wine glass, things like that might make sense for your area. Some R&D and professional technical services, especially with college nearby, and maybe being able to have some workforce benefit there. There's some ideas for ag tech, again, kind of research-based ag industry that can mesh together there. The aerospace industry is an interesting one for this site in particular, because obviously you have an airfield with a runway and that capability that's unique to this site and not to others. There are limitations with the size of Martin Airfield. Obviously, you have a little bit less runway. So these industries that we've identified might be on a smaller scale. You're not going to be servicing big, 737s and so forth and doing a lot of jet engine repairs, but these might be on a smaller scale for things like advanced air mobility, basically drones, electric aircraft. There's a lot of research involved with alternative fuels, hydrogen and such, rather than traditional leaded avgas that a lot of these folks are using now. And then finally, this logistics hub is kind of an interesting one. We're seeing a lot, some examples from the East Coast ports that are reaching capacity and now relying more on their inland facilities to be kind of a pressure release valve when those coastal ports get overloaded. And so we're seeing some of this, in the Seattle, Tacoma port area where they are getting overloaded and maybe looking for some of that relief. So might be some growth opportunities there with this site in particular as well. Next slide, please. So this is the site analysis. It's kind of a what you have scenario of, what's out there now that we evaluate. And you've seen a lot of these before, so I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. On sanitary sewer and industrial wastewater on site, you have basically nothing out there right now, not surprising. A lot of on-site septic collection and so forth. There are plans in your general sewer plan to have some mainline trunks kind of surrounding the site, and might make sense to go into the site with some lines to connect future sites when we do a conceptual layout later in the process. Next slide, please. Same thing with water, you're kind of surrounded, but nothing on site. And so if there's developable properties here that require water service, it makes sense to stub into those as well. Next slide. And then traffic, Mike went over this before. We've collected traffic counts, part of a larger effort kind of surrounding the area. We had added just a few of those ones in red that you see, for instance, at Last Chance Road and Old US 12 there. Want to make sure we identify some of those kind of key intersections where if, for instance, trucking is an industry that's going to be enhanced in the future, we want to make sure that we know exactly what those intersections are looking like now and how improvements might look in the future if they're under higher demand with various industries. Next slide, please. This you haven't seen, and so what we're starting to do is evaluate based on the property you've got, and it's a little over 200 acres, if I recall, what's actually developable. And so what are we working around here? So the green area in general that you're seeing is what we're considering developable land. And it's a little bit tricky, this site. You've got obviously a lot of it bisected by the runway itself. And then there's a lot of what we're calling airport restrictions. So those kind of trapezoid shapes on each end of the runway. There's limitations to what you can build there because we want to make sure that we're leaving area for aircraft to land and take off safely. There are some hangar areas, so forth, that are a little bit confined by the creek running through there that are shown in red that might be pretty difficult to develop. And steep slopes and so forth. You do have that southeast corner of the site up on kind of a plateau that obviously makes development challenging on the slope itself. So all in all, about 124 acres is what we're looking at, and that might even go down depending on some of the other restrictions. So we're taking a look at this to see how lots might lay out, the sizes of those lots based on various industries you might want to attract, and internal road and infrastructure that would go into this too. So we're going to be taking this to next steps, and I would hope in about a month's time, when I might be presenting to this group again, you'll see some more detail on how the lot layouts and internal infrastructure might work within the developable area. Next slide, please. And just an update on our schedule. So that star is where we're at. Again, we're pretty much at the tail end of our economic feasibility study. Really just looking for some input from this group and seeing if there's things that we need to refine before we finalize that. Site analysis and infrastructure analysis should be wrapped up in the next few weeks here. And then mostly in December, we'll be looking to go back and forth with the city, get input, and finalize this plan so you've got something tangible and actionable to work off of. And I think that's everything I've got. Next slide, I think, is just the end one. So I want to thank you for having me, and happy to entertain any questions, particularly related to the economic feasibility. And of those industries that I outlined rather quickly, I'd love to get feedback from this group on if there's anything that stands out as something that you'd like to attract, or if there have been particular inquiries from industries that have been interested in the area.
Thank you, Ben. Does anybody have any questions?
Could we just explore? I'm sorry, I'm an ideas person. Could we just explore the idea of that it's actually really cool to have an airport right there? And what about like the tourism, opportunities that might be, some kind of a venue? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if that tracks or would be interesting, but I think I just can't help but think that there is some kind of touristy thing that we could explore out there.
Yeah, when we first started this, I had that same thought. I thought, well, if there's one thing that's unique about this site, it's that you've got an airstrip here, that you've got aircraft access. So with all the emerging technologies that we're seeing in drones and advanced air mobility, I got excited about that too. I did want to acknowledge some of the limitations and just the size of the runway, but you still do have a unique asset here. As far as tourism goes, and specifically related to aircraft and aerospace tourism, we see a lot of these airports of some of similar size that attract a fly-in or some kind, or have certain events that draw people in and let people know about what you've got as an asset. That might be, you've got a privately owned airport here, so that would be a partnership with that private owner, but we see that generating a lot of interest in the sites. People might not know that something's out there, or what kind of asset the community has and how it might be able to develop. So that might be something you could look into.
Any other questions for Ben? Thank you so much for your input, and we look forward to seeing more from you in the coming months.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our action items. It looks like we have one, Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay, thank you. So this item is our capital facility plan. This really dovetails our investment strategy for facilities and then infrastructure like storm streets, water, wastewater. The first year tends to be more of a concrete thing. The other 5 years are more for planning purposes. The initial draft document is like the Cliff's Notes, if you will. It just has the names of the project, costs, how I'll pay for it. The really the deep data of all this is early draft booklet. If you go to that, and if you go to early draft booklet, Mary Elizabeth, if you could try to pull that up. It's big though. This goes on everything. I'm just going to touch on the key pertinent stuff that goes over the coming years here. So page 4, that goes into what is a capital facility plan. And again, it just covers the investments in our infrastructure. Page 5 has our priority projects. Priority projects are really the ones that take the lion's share of the investments. So putting money in a wastewater treatment plant, the phase 1A, that's key, of about $5 million. Putting in the well house for our next drinking water well, that's about $4 million. Department of Health's paying most of that. The heavy lift in streets is Majania Road's getting reconstructed. A lot of that's grant funded as well, and that's matched by tax increment finance dollars. Wastewater, the lift station 5 change out, and it also involves reconstruction of Southwest First. They all wrap up next year. And then we're also planning to construct a sidewalk down Southeast 8th from College at Larch, so that way you could walk safely between downtown and Lions Park. And majority of that is grant funded as well. If you go to page 10, That has basically the process that this all goes through. So from where the projects come from department heads, go through the advisory commissions for recommendations, and ultimately it gets to city council. Page 11 details the amount of capital funds we put in. This last year is very busy with Damson Street, Lions Park, Post Office, Crosswalk. A lot of things going on. Page 12 details investment breakout for next year versus the next 6 years. As you can see, the lion's share of the investments next year tend to be in water, which is 33%, followed by streets at 25%, and wastewater at 14%, and then storm over 13%. And then when you move over to the 6 years, our biggest liability is streets. That ends up being about 37%. And then that is followed by basically improvements over with water at 19%. And then parks at 11%. And then wastewater at 13%. So if you go to page 15, the amount of capital we're replacing is quite a bit. Our total liability of what we're working to change out ends up being over 181 million. However, if you look at how we fund it, over 65% of that cost ends up being contingent upon grants and then developer contributions. So only 35 is ultimately borne, whether it be by utility rates or property taxes or so on and so forth. Page 16 explains how projects are prioritized. High means it needs to happen no matter what. Medium is that there's some time, but we'll work to make it happen. And low means that unless there's a grant or some extraneous circumstance that pops up, it won't happen, but we're working to try and make it happen. Page 17 has a map of all of the improvements. Now getting into various sections, page 19, City Hall. So as we get into facilities, we really want to improve this building and build out what was supposed to occur over 30 years ago. And we're trying to hit up a lot of grants, make it happen. You'll notice on each of these projects that we have the cost of the phases, and then the little blue box on the bottom right has how we pay for it. Page 20, fire department, we have a state earmark that's going to pay to change out a lot of the HVAC and electricity. So I'll be over $1 million, and a lot of that is it's all grant funded, and there's other investments because it is a dorm for our volunteer staff and like that. So we're working to improve that. Page 21, police department. We'll see what happens tomorrow. So that's really going to dictate where that goes. If the supermajority go for this, and the idea is to make the plans that the police department and public have been working on reality and go put the new police station adjacent to the high school. So more follow on that tomorrow. Page 22 gets an infrastructure, and I'm only going to go over ones that are going to go down next year. Page 24, parks, Veterans Park. We're getting ready to tee that project up as Lions Park gets done. So we have some grant money for this idea in the Homestead subdivision. Redo that park to include basketball, pickleball, better playground equipment, and a multi-use field. So you can see some of the conceptual plans there. Page 25, community center replacement. We've talked about that at length. So Swiss Army Knife Community Centers, library district facility, and then commercial kitchen, and then childcare and community room. We're going to be doing architectural work mainly next year. And then the following year, we'll be teeing it up to actually demo the existing building and then replace it with the multifaceted structure. Then Then you can see all the other park projects. Now going to roads for next year, page 33. Majania Road is the big one, so they'll be reconstructed from College Avenue, Blueview Lane. Grants are paying for a lot of this. So they'll be a road with traffic lanes, turn lanes, sidewalks, street lights, and utilities underneath. Page 34, we're engineering the east-west road in partnership with that developer, Lakeside. So there'll be a road that parallels Mid-January and it'll connect to new intermediate school. So work on that has begun. Okay, and then we will get into the other projects going into storm, page 40. The decant facility. So that's facility helps clean out our street sweepers and separate solids from liquid. We wrapped up engineering. Plan is go to construction on this. We're going to Wall 2050 and Department of Ecology and make it a reality. Page 481, we end up getting Public Works Trust Fund money. So we're going to rebuild Birch from 4th to 6th and then 6th from Date to Bathe. Make sure he has sidewalk and new utilities underneath. So it's a really good project. Page 42 is to change out of dry wells. So getting stormwater injected into the shallow aquifer. So we'll be working on that. Page 43. Public Works Yard storm right now. That whole site just sheet drains on the ground and you're supposed to treat it. So we end up getting some grant money to go engineer appropriate treatment infrastructure. Page 44, Earl Lane stormwater. We've been trying to fund this, but basically redo some of the storm infrastructure along here so that way it drains appropriately when it rains quite a bit. And page 45, urban forestry. We have a very large urban forestry grant. So making this reality, putting irrigation along Whitman around Martin Airfield, make sure we have trees out there. And then this will also go pay for volunteer events to install trees along Majania Road and then the east-west road as well. Page 46, stream gauge installation. We put in for an earmark request on this. So the idea is to put gauges and Garrison Creek and Stone Creek. If we're able to quantify data, we believe this will position us to get construction grant money from the National Resource Conservation Corporation. They have a grant program, pays for a lot of stormwater construction, but you need data first. This will help us get there. Page 47, 10th Street, engineer that. This will be the companion of the Southeast 10th Street that was redone a couple of years ago. So that way we actually treat stormwater and just don't dump it in without treatment in a Garrison Creek. Then we get into our street projects, page 51. Chip seal, we just put the rock on the roads, it insulates it, keeps it good for another 10 years. We skipped it this last year because the county was using bigger rock, but they're going to return to the more urbanized rock next year. So you can see we'll resume it next year. Page 52. We try to resurface about a block or two a street each year. This is essentially how this will play out next year. So Cotter, block of Southwest 4th and Southeast 10th between Birch and Date. Position that to get resurfaced. Page 53, Safe Walk College Place. So this is the sidewalk along Southeast 8th going to Lions Park. And we also have grant money to engineer the gap in the multi-use path along Whitman from Davis to Academy Way. And a lot of this is all grant funds. Page 54, the parking lots. Tax increment financing is paying for this. We bought some property across from City Hall to construct a parking lot, and then we're looking for some other ones as well. And the idea is if we build enough these parking lots, we'll be able to waive the parking requirement, and we believe that'll facilitate investment in our downtown corridor. Page 55, this is a roundabout at the East West Road and College Avenue, engineering that. And then page 56, Southeast Lamperty, making sure there's an appropriate guardrail and safety mechanism at that intersection. We've had a number of cars go over the wall, so trying to fix that. And then page 57, working to change out College Avenue and 125 to a roundabout. They will facilitate additional investment to the west of that intersection. And also it's positioning it for investment the state was working on doing in the coming years anyway. It's just this will help get some development inside the city. Page 58. We end up getting grant funds for this, so we're going to engineer this next year, construct it the following year. Headlights on Whitman between Adams and Davis, and then lighting on Davis between Whitman and 6th, including repaving Davis between 4th and 6th, and then a sidewalk between 4th and 6th as well. And then page 59, Rose Street, we put in for some grant money, put in the lighting along Rose, trying to make that a reality. And then page 60, Whitman and Home Depot intersection, turning that into a roundabout. We put in for grant money, and this is to help facilitate that hotel redevelopment we've talked about in past months. Page 61, 12th and Larch. Again, this is dependent a lot on grants, but changing out that intersection to a roundabout. We've had engineering studies that suggested once traffic warrants hit as they are now, it get converted to this, so making the other reality. And that is key with that. Now going into wastewater projects, page 69. Wastewater treatment plant, making the phase 1 improvements reality. A lot of this is all grant money from the feds and the state. Page 70, lift station 5, changing that out for a safer lift station, actually has backup power. And then we get into our water projects, page 73. So with that one, it's building a new well because we're trying to get out of the historical water crisis, and we did replace our 2 failed wells, but in the meantime, our population's grown by quite a bit since that time, about 2,000 folks. So this one is another well, Southwest Teal. We're making sure all wells are in different parts of town, so that way, whether we have ground issues or other seismic concerns, it won't take out all of our wells. Page 74, transmission main. This will be done in partnership with Majania Road Project, because with the new well and the water tower, it has to be linked in the rest of the water system. And this will be done as Majania's reconstructed. And then page 75, this is a new water tower. We're racking and stacking a lot of grants to make this a reality. Just shy of about $20 million. And this is a deal with a 600,000 gallon deficiency we have in the water system for storage, but then also planning for another 400,000 gallons to accommodate growth. And then page 76, the current water tower, seismically retrofitting and then repainting that. A lot of that's being borne by a FEMA brick grant from the feds. And then last one, page 77's well 3. That was our good well that carried the city along during the water crisis. However, that well, believe it or not, doesn't have a backup generator on it. So actually getting a generator on the good well. So we have Public Works Trust Fund money to make that a reality. So with that, those are all key projects going on. Are there any questions?
That was a lot. Do we have any questions?
Hey, Mike, this is Doug Case.
Yeah.
So do we still have an intertie with Walla Walla?
Yes, we do. We actually have 3 of them. We have one intertie at Rose and Myra. We have a second one at Garrison Village Way in Myra, and then a third at 12th and Myra.
And so do we get any water from them now currently? or not?
No, we don't. We haven't turned that on. I mean, we test it, but we haven't like used it for consumption probably in about like a year or so.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and one thing I'll also know, we are going to be doing a study potential in the state's paying for it about consolidating several irrigation systems into the city's system because they're having problem finding operators. So irrigation district 14 and then 9 and 12, they're wanting to potentially fold into the city system. So we'll be evaluating that.
Is there any other questions? All right, if there's not, do I have a motion to accept Mr. Rizzatello's all the stuff? Yes.
A motion to recommend the fiscal year 2025 to 2030 capital facility plan to council.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All of those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion is passed. So now moving on to the staff reports. Ms. Garcia, community events update.
For those of you who attended our Halloween event last week, it was super successful, super cute. As somebody who's done events in the past, I have to say I was actually really impressed. It was really great. It had like music and food, and kids had a whole bunch of fun. So coming up, we have Winterfest. We have people already trying to sign up to be a vendor and participate in the parade. I just included this Winterfest pyro invoice to prove that we're going to have an awesome show this year, as usual. Our flyer is out, and this year we're actually doing a gingerbread house competition courtesy of, or like paid for by the city. So that'll be cute for the kids. Yes, that's about all I have for community events.
Thank you. And Ms. Garcia, the Downtown Association formation.
So my understanding is that Mr. Rizzatello has attempted to form a downtown group multiple times, and we're going to try again. I have written out just about everything you could possibly want to know about the communications that have gone out already. I've made some branding. I would love to get your guys' feedback. This was part of the info meeting where I described some of the things that we can do, some of the different projects that can be done. And I am working also and this is the letter that also went out to business owners within the district. Happy to take a look or have any feedback, but there's some branding that I worked on. I love doing this stuff. It's not my profession, but it's fun, just some initial stuff to get a downtown group together. These colors are actually pulled from our City of College Place official color palette. And yes, happy to take any questions about a downtown group.
Have you been able to meet the new director of Walla Walla Downtown Foundation?
I haven't. I know that's an abomination, but I haven't met them yet.
Yeah, so she just started not too long ago, so it might be good to connect.
Yeah.
Just that way, because she's new as well. So.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder for those new of the commission, the key reason why we're really trying to get this started is that if you have a downtown association, it's 501c3. The state has a tax credit program where as a business, instead of paying your money to Olympia, you can pledge it to the downtown association, then you get a tax credit. And the money stays local to help with like events and facade improvements and stuff like that. So right now, when you pay taxes, it's just going to Olympia and it's not like helping locally. One of the things we did try to do is I was trying to get the state to cooperate and allow 2 downtown areas to be covered by a downtown association. Just because we do have a number of businesses here that also have businesses in Walla Walla, but the state got all uppity about it and was like refusing to cooperate. So we're going to try this route. Otherwise I'll be chasing a legislative fix, but we're hoping this go around that we could be successful in that.
Well, and I know that the Walla Walla Downtown Foundation being in the county, as a business owner, they've reached out to us for that same thing. So it would be nice to keep it in
Absolutely.
College Place than in Walla Walla County.
Absolutely.
So-
Absolutely. Yeah. Coming from a nonprofit background, doing downtown work myself, like I can't state enough how important it is to have city support. I mean, it really, what the city is willing to do for a group here is so exciting.
All right, thank you. Last but not least, November 24 development update, Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay, thank you. So this is us update the projects. I'll go over some of the key changes. So Jersey Mike's, they're still aiming for an opening sometime around Thanksgiving. They're moving more equipment in there and the sign is up. Walmart grand opening was held reopening was held a couple weeks ago. A lot roomier in there now, and then they have a separate building for essentially people doing pickup orders. And they'll be wrapping up doing some repaving of the parking lot in the springtime, but it was a substantial improvement, about a $16 million investment in redoing the store. Then across the way, we're still talking with a potential car wash vendor, as well as a gas station vendor. That was waiting for Walmart to wrap up with their renovations. So I think that next phase may be coming along shortly. Project Cobble. That one, again, it's really dependent upon that roundabout project. So we're trying to get grant funding and make that occur. Project LK is at Myron Garrison Village Way. It's actually connected with Lakeside. It appears to be some sort of senior living development, wants to go next to Regency at the park. So we're looking at what that is going to look like. Project Bullseye, that's tied to the hotel redevelopment. Same with Project OPH. Project DE, that they're gonna make an option offer as soon as Walla Walla pulls out that pork chop, which will be done when the intersection's redone as part of the South Myra Road expansion. Project Y. As soon as the operator sells some operations they have in the Spokane area, they're going to move on that, but that's what's holding it up. Going to the next page, Project Smile is Martin Airfield area. They're in due diligence, but we're getting inquiries about water and things like that. And it appears to be some sort of last mile warehousing facility. It wants to go adjacent to it. So we'll see where that goes. Project FM, they're really looking at the site immediately adjacent to that dual roundabout that is planned for 125 in College. Project Flight, that's going to be contingent on the study, so that we have swing over so that way developer knows what infrastructure needs to be extended into what size. And then Project Long, that's Commercial Drive, and they're just we're waiting on them to pull their permit. Now on the residential side, Northwest Residential, going to page 5, they're going to be looking at doing some redevelopment off of Southwest 6th. Villages of Fort Walla Walla, they actually purchased a building permit, so it appears to be moving. Otherwise, I don't know why they would have spent that kind of money on that. So it's going somewhere. The Sermon development off of Spitzenberg that continues to be in construction. Lakeside off of Majanier Road. We've asked for additional information, and we believe that we'll have the information back near the end of the year, get them going in the hearing examiner process. So that's pretty exciting. Villages Garrison Creek, the last two phases. The infrastructure's been put in for a part of it. We're getting ready for them to file plats out there. Deer Meadows on Southwest 12th, no updates of yet. It appears they're trying to get additional investors. And then the last part, and this is just future UGA plans, but discussions with landowners about getting additional land west of Merton Airfield and then also west of Sunset Villa Manufactured Home Park into the UGA for some additional housing options. And then Salerno Estates on Southwest 12th, they're working on building up those homes on the half-acre sites. But that is what I have for now.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? And with that, is there a motion to conclude the meeting tonight?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Bruce. And a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. If there's no objections, the meeting is now concluded at 5:53. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.